The last 5 months, the last 5 months plus, I don't know how it has been for you, but it has been something else for the world. I must say, I know it has been something else for the world. And I can say for sure that nobody expected the pandemic to last this long. But I know that a lot of us, especially for those in the CEDA community who are intentional to thrive, would have involved themselves in a lot of things. Now, if you've read a book, or you've signed up for a program, or you've attended a course over the course of this lockdown, somehow, mostly virtual, I know virtual. No, well, for the reading of the book, you could actually have, read some of the books that you have had on your library shelf for a while, okay? But if you've done any of those things to make the best of the moment for you, or you learned a skill, I would like to see a wave. I would like to see a wave. If possible, even let me know the title of the books you've read, or the course you attended, or something that you signed up for over the course of this period, this 5 months plus. I know some people started the lockdown in their cities at a later time than the others. We started about early March, yeah. But I don't know when you started on your end, but I'm sure you've tried to make the best of being at home, right? So if you've done something to advance your level of competence or understanding, I would like you to just give me a wave of hand. If it's a book, if you want to let us know the title of the book, I would really love to know. I would really love to know. Let me know. Okay, Fortify Together is giving me a thumbs up. Facebook guys, what have you done to push yourself forward over the lockdown? I'm sure that nobody wants to be the same person, right? If you've done something, financial mastery, thank you for sharing, and thank you for joining as well. I appreciate that. Okay, now the next question I want to ask, and if you're watching the replay, please give me #replay. If you have a question that comes up in your mind or in your heart while we're having this session today, please just drop it so I can know that you missed the session, and that's the reason why I must make sure that I attend to that question, okay? Now, the other question I want to ask today is this. Since you had that program, or since you read that book, what have you done? How has it been for you? Would you say it was something that was just, something to pass the time for you, or, how has it been for you since the program? Would you say it was quite tangible? It was worth the time, it was worth the investment. It was worth the investment. I will tell you that I have invested a lot in myself. Books, As a Man Thinketh, Financial Intelligence. Okay, thank you for sharing. And for those who are still thinking of what books to still catch up on, or to read, or to buy for their library, some list of books will be coming up today, so you don't want to miss on those ones, okay? All right, yeah. So the question I want to ask is, if you've read books, right, or you've done something, how has it been for you since you did that? How has it been for you since you did that? Okay, while you're thinking about it, because I'm sure not many people have had the opportunity to actually reflect on some of the personal development opportunities they've given themselves. They've not really had time to sit down to say, okay, I did this, I invested in this has been the outcome, right? Okay, now, I have a topic today, and that's plug-in. So I'm going to use a prop. So today, like some other days before, I'm bringing a prop to the session, all right? Now, this prop is a universal adapter. I don't know how many of us have, used one before. If you've been traveling a lot, if you're someone who has traveled a lot, maybe not just in a particular continent, because if you're in a particular continent, most likely all the sockets are about the same. But if you're someone who travels around a lot, I mean, you move from Europe to America to Africa and to some other places like that, you probably would have needed something like this at some point in time. So this is a universal adapter. Now, the way it works is that you have different settings. So depending on where you are, you can basically adjust the plug to be able to fit into the socket of the country that you're in. Yes, the country that you're in. So you have the settings that go into America. If you've been in America before, you know that they have a different setting that I think 2 different slots or something like that. If you're in Nigeria, Africa, I think it has the 3 points. This one is the 2 points, and there are some that have 3. Basically it's different for each country. So what this adapter does is that it helps you to plug in your device or your tool that you want to connect to power. It helps you to connect it to that country's location, to adapt it to that country's location so that you can charge it, use it, or however way you need to use it, right? Now, the thing that I've realized with many of us is that we tend to forget, or maybe should I say we tend to forget, or we miss out understanding the fact that when we go for programs, right, the speaker or the teacher or the coach or the trainer basically is focusing on making sure that as many people understand the concept being shared. Now, depending on the kind of program you go for, there may be a need for you to now make sure that all that you've learned now fits into your situation. And that's what I call customizing. Customizing is an opportunity for you to say, okay, we've learned this. Now, how does it fit into my situation? Because if you look at some of the programs some of us sign for, at least a minimum of 10, 20 people sign up for those programs. And we all came into that program with different expectations. Even if you are both in similar spaces, you are expecting different things, different outcomes from that program. So the question that I have for you today is this. For those books you've read, now the ones that you read on your own, you probably had, a particular way in which you went about studying it, but have you really had time to plug in what you took out into your situation? Have you really had time to plug in what you took out into your situation? That course you signed up for, have you started seeing a change? Because sometimes we are doing, and that's what happens with many of us, because we're not doing the right plug-in, so we think we need another program. We think we need to go for another course. And because we are doing nothing about what we know, there's a tendency for us to feel inadequate, unqualified for the next level. Because we're not really actually sitting down to say, I've taken this out. And this is how I'm going to do differently because of the thing that I've learned. And that's what I call a particular type of, because I'm going to be talking about 2 plug-in situations that we need to be aware of if we really want to thrive. So you're learning new things, amazing things that should actually be bringing change to you, but you've not yet plugged in. And there are many ways in which a plug-in can happen, but today I'm just going to share one. Now, one of the things that I recommend for us to be able to plug in when we learn something new is to take time. So when you go for these programs or you do this book studies and all of that, you have notes or you have parts that you've underlined. Now, I always I was having a conversation with someone over the weekend. I was telling her what I try to do is to tell myself, what are the top 3 to 5 things? Now, I also try to focus on, if it's just 3, that's fine. But if you can do up to 5, if you can do more, that's also great. Now, the idea is this, to ask yourself, those top takeouts, how are you going to do something about it differently for a period of time? So you tell yourself, okay, I took this out. I took this concept out, this new learning out. What am I going to do within the next 7 days? So you build a template. If you're very good with Excel, you can do that. If you want to put it up on your phone, you can do that and set reminders. But you tell yourself, what do I want to do within the next 7 days? What do I want to do within the next 14 days or 2 weeks? Or what do I want to do within the next 30 days? And what do I want to do within the next 90 days or 1 year of learning that thing? Because this is where you begin to realize that there's a difference between those who do something about what they know and those who don't. Because sometimes when you question some people on what they know, you'll be surprised with how much they're able to share. But they've not really been able to plug in into their situation because they've not actually said, oh, I will start to do this, or I will stop doing this, or I will do this differently within this period of time. So the question I'm having for you today is, have you actually done that reflection or assessment of the things you've learned or studied or come across in the last few? Because, you can learn all you want. If you're doing nothing with what you've learned, you can't thrive more. You will basically be thriving. So, because I know some people are doing great where they are, but for those who actually go out of their way to learn something new, you won't really see change because you're doing nothing with it. You won't really gain more confidence because you're doing nothing with it. And even when I have my mastermind sessions as well, what I try to do is to ask people, how do you want to implement this thing within the next period of time? Because it's not enough for us to gather knowledge. Gathering knowledge, everybody's gathering knowledge. But the game changers, those are the ones who are plugging in. Those are the ones who are plugging in. And I know that this is something that we can all do by ourselves. Honestly, we can do this by ourselves. I told you that I try to do that in my space. But let me tell you where being able to actually get the results come in, when you are accountable to someone. When someone knows that you are being deliberate to do something different because of this training you've gone for, course you've signed up for, book that you're reading. You need to be accountable to someone. If you know that discipline, because some of us, it's not like we're not disciplined normally or we're not committed normally. We're committed, we want to grow, we want to be better versions of ourselves. But sometimes just having a friend or having someone who can actually pull us up, encourage us, inspire us, challenge us, will help us to really be committed to that course of change that we want. And I have said over and over, you have access to complimentary sessions. Folafire.com, work with Folafire. Because I know a lot of people are like, Folafire, you're always offering us complimentary sessions. What do we talk about? Those are some of the things we can talk about. How do you plug in? What are you learning in your space? And what are the things, particularly if you're looking at something with respect to life goals, leadership, you're in a leadership position and you're learning something around leadership and you're like, okay, I've learned so much. So how do I begin to do something? You get ideas when you are in a program, but what do you do with the ideas afterwards? If you don't immediately plug in, a few weeks down the line, you will need to go for that program again. That's why some people go for a refresher course. Because they're not doing anything about what they know. But you need to plug in to come to the next level of thriving. So my challenge to you is this. Have you been deliberate to to appreciate your takeouts? Because I know that we all have takeouts from the new things we come into, right? New concepts we learn. Are you bringing them back up in your conversations? When you have conversations with people, I was talking to one of my mastermind group participants recently, and she was telling me that there was a concept she took from the program, and she's been able to teach one or two people. Those are also opportunities for you to be able to plug in. Because when you're also helping other people to understand the concept, then it's getting integrated into you even more. So if ever you have a template with reminders, and you're accountable to someone on how you're implementing that thing within 7 days, 14 days, 30 days, 90 days, a period of time depending, to plug those things in. Otherwise, you're just going to be accumulating information and doing nothing about it. And then those things may put you in a place where you will see others who know the same and they're doing something about it, and then you feel a little bit bad, inadequate, unqualified, and there's a loss of confidence. Now, there's another situation where plugging in is also key. I know that because of the pandemic, I'm going to refer a lot to the pandemic now because even though it's easing out, I know that there are some things that will be characteristic of us going back to going to the new normal. I won't use the word back because we've already experienced change. And that's the fact that seasons change. Seasons change. Seasons change for everyone. And one of the things that is key to thriving is being able to know when your seasons change. Now, the thing that happens with us not appreciating that change in season is that we still have the same expectations of ourselves like we had in the previous season. Unrealistic. It gets unrealistic because when your seasons change and you're still expecting the same delivery or performance from yourself, then you're being unrealistic with yourself. So if you've been on your own and all of a sudden you start working for a company, the season has changed for you. If you had just one teenager and all of a sudden there are two, the season has changed. Now, what happens with many of us is that we don't get to assess and identify that change, classify that change, and see, these are the things that have changed. These are my new expectations. And this is the way I need to plug in to myself and to my vision and to the goals I have. And so my question to us today is, when your seasons have changed in the last 5 months, or when they did change in the last 5 months, did you observe? We had a series that we did on the podcast early in the pandemic season, when the pandemic happened, Adjust the Sales. The idea of that series was to be able to let people know that, look, the season is changing for a lot of people, and with the pandemic, we all need to adjust the sales. Now, what happens is that when your season is changing, you have to adjust the sales. It can't be business as usual. Things can't be the same. And the reason why many of us are struggling to thrive is that the season has changed. Yet, we want the same thing. So you are in summer, and you still want to dress like you're in winter. You're in winter, and you do not remember to get your jacket on because you think it's still summer. And so we're not plugging into our seasons, and we're not making the best of what is possible. So have you been able to identify that the season? Because now I've been seeing a lot of notices and posts online. Airports in Lagos are open now for international flights. Some schools will be resuming in a few weeks. So even parents that were used to homeschooling, or rather supervising online schooling for their kids, the season is going to change. Are you going to be able to say that you know what is changing? and aware of what to adjust. Now, some people may be like, what did you talk about? What were the contributions on the Adjust the Sales series? The episodes are still there on Spotify, iTunes, Adjust the Sales, The Polished Lens. But I'm saying that in addition to that, with every changing season you go through, going forward in life, you need to have that time for yourself where you really plug in to that change. Otherwise, thriving will be difficult. Now, I've given 2 situations of where we need to plug in tonight. And for both, I'm reassuring you that if it's something you can do on your own, you need to start running with that. You need to start plugging in. Now, if you're someone who is like, Falafayo, you see what you've just said? I need to sit down to talk with someone. We have complimentary sessions. Work with Falafayo page on my website, falafayo.com. Please, let's have this session together. I'll be more than delighted to have this session with you, because this is something that I love to do. And I needed to clarify for a lot of people who have heard me say it over and over. I have clarity sessions that are complimentary. You can sign up for it. And I know a lot of people are like, I don't know what we talk about. Okay, as your season changed, then let's talk about that. Let's talk about how to be realistic with what you're setting for yourself. Or you don't know what exactly you want to be looking out for, then we should be connecting with that. Or would you say that you've learned so much, you've been on this program, you're actually even considering another program, and you don't know, you really want to see this change, then let's work together on how to make a plan for you to actually move towards that change. And so I'll be delighted to have that session with you. It's complimentary. The first session we have together is complimentary. But for me, I think I really just want to emphasize the fact that my role as a perception shaper, especially for the CEDA community, my Facebook group people, is to be able to help people to see from angles that could be overlooked. Sometimes we're studying so much, learning so much, and we're not seeing the change we want. And I think it's high time we start to see that. I think it's high time we started seeing that. I think it's high time we started plugging into the seasons and flowing. Because many times we could tend to move against the tide. A friend of mine was talking about moving against the tide in a book she was studying recently. And I was asking her that, well, what's the context? So if you're moving against the tide with your seasons, then, you'll be seeing a bit of change. Okay, financial mastery, I see what you sent in here. Seasons, the similar issues, looking forward to a new season rather than paying attention to our current season to maximize it. Exactly. You can look forward to a new season and plan for it and prepare for it. So you could prepare for a season, but the thing that happens is that most times you don't even know when the season changes, because the season changing is really something that happens on the outside of us. It's really sometimes beyond our control. But the truth is, whether we were prepared for it or not, when it changes, we need to know. We need to be objective and sensitive when it does change. Because if we are delivering and performing on the same level in a different season, we will end up being frustrated. Because a lot of imbalance happens. And that's why many of us are probably struggling to thrive. So I don't know how prepared many of us are for the new normal. The new normal, with the lockdown lifting up in some cities now. And so I want to leave you with this question today. How ready are you to plug in? How aware are you to plug in into the season with where you are and with who you are? And with all that you've learned during the pandemic, how much have you plugged in?